1045 The Team, your home for me who loves to bet on sports, and now it looks like I'll be able to do it without talking to Vinny the Fish anymore. Joining us, who might have to be my attorney after that statement, Brett Smiley. He's the editor-in-chief of sportshandle.com. So, Brett, first of all, this ruling comes down. They lift everything. What does this actually mean for New York State?
What the decision did yesterday in the Supreme Court, there was a 1992 federal law that prevented states from legalizing or authorizing sports betting. So now each state will have the ability, if they so choose, to legalize and regulate sports betting. New York is pretty deep into the conversation. They've had hearings January, February. There are bills on the table that are advancing. However, they're up against a deadline. The legislative session ends at the end of June. Your governor, Cuomo, yesterday poured a little cold water. He doesn't believe that they'll get something done, but we've spoken to an Assemblyman, Clive Vanell, and he said New York will not be left out. Don't bank on it, but I think it's likely that New York will pass a bill that allows there to be sports betting at the commercial casinos, racetracks, racinos, and OTB parlors by the end of this session.
Okay, you said commercial casinos, parlors, things like that. Let's do our first what-if scenario, right? Let's say Governor Cuomo can't get it through legislation because of time. Do other Native American casinos, whether it be the Turning Stone Casino or others, will they be able to allow sports gambling at their facilities?
That's an open question at this point, and I was looking around earlier. I think they actually, Turning Stone, the United Nation, put out a statement that they are going to move forward, but one of the hurdles in a number of states, including Connecticut, New York, and a number of other states, is what to do with the tribal state compacts, because the states are getting tax revenue, most of them, according to these agreements, but they don't say anything about sports wagering. So that's one of the hurdles for the lawmakers, figuring out how to let everyone get a piece of the action, and those conversations with stakeholders are ongoing.
Brett Smiley with us right now, editor-in-chief of sportshandle.com. So, Brett, what's the internet app fallout from this? Is there a chance that we'll be back to having apps on our phones and computers where we can wager that way like we do on horses?
Any of these states that are going to legalize gambling, they're going to allow an online mobile component. That's going to be the case in New Jersey, Pennsylvania. I think all these states recognize that in order to compete with Vinny the Fish, or whoever I'm going to need to be speaking with on your behalf, you have to have online. Otherwise, people are not going to have a reason to leave their existing books. So, yeah, I would expect that to happen. The New York law is going to allow that. And, in fact, I don't think you'll even have to go into a casino to register. So you can sit at home on your couch on Sunday and maybe do some line shopping on the phone.
I want to make sure I get this part right because I know people have talked about it today. There's one part in the ruling yesterday that says Congress can dictate how sports gambling is presented in the U.S. So state to state, is that a hurdle or an obstacle that may cause this actually to be delayed at all?
Congress, had they done it correctly in 1992, they could have banned sports betting outright. They still have the ability to do so. It was just that the way this law was structured was unconstitutional. But without getting too deep into the weeds on that, the NFL has now gone to Congress and said we intend to work on a piece of legislation that legalizes sports betting at the federal level, and they have the reasons for that. But the takeaway is that I believe sports betting, legal sports betting, is here to stay. As far as frameworks and infrastructure, that may change a little bit. Congress later down the line may weigh in and create a federal framework. But I can confidently say yesterday was a watershed moment, and widespread sports betting is coming.
Brett Smiley with us on 1045 Team. So, Brett, if it's not a matter of if we'll be able to bet in New York State, it's a matter of when. What are the two prospective timetables?
The session ends on June 20th. There's already a couple pieces of legislation on the table. One of them is sponsored by Senator John Bonisic. Gary Pretlow, he's big on the horse racing. He's in the Assembly. I would expect them to have a companion piece of legislation soon. If you're listening, you're a sports bettor, you can tell your local legislator to get on board with one of these bills, and you can stay tuned on our website for the latest. I guess I'll handicap, since we're talking sports betting, the probability of this happening. I would say it's about a slight favor that something gets done. Say minus 120 that New York legalizes prior to the end of their June session.
Wow. And then because of that, it'll be ready to go by football season.
Yeah, that'll give them a solid 2.5 months to get ready, and I assume that would be the goal. So, like I said, it's definitely not a certainty. Anything could happen, but if you want to actually have a voice in it, call your lawmaker and tell them that you want this bill to go through.
Now, just because they've legalized sports gambling and you believe it could possibly happen, that New York has it as soon as the fall, that doesn't necessarily mean all casinos in upstate New York will then have sports books. Are there going to be any casinos that are actually resistant because they feel like, well, this is on us now. We might actually lose money because of this?
I think most casinos and racetracks, given the opportunity, are going to get on board. There's certainly a risk with sports betting and volatility, but if you have people who have the experience running these sports books, and many of these casinos are going to engage experienced operators, some of them existing in Nevada, to handle the risk management, I would say by and large they're going to welcome this, assuming that the tax rate is agreeable, and New York seems to be doing it correctly. I think they're going to do 8, maybe 10%. So that's manageable. That's just about what Nevada is doing, and I'd be surprised if anybody turns this away. Even if it's a break-even proposition, they'll still get more foot traffic into their casinos and just kind of treat it as an amenity.
Brett Smiley, the editor-in-chief of SportsHandle.com. You can read up on everything he just told us there, and of course, Brett, when news breaks on this, we'll be hitting you up because, I mean, I'm excited for one. I like being given the opportunity to be an adult and decide whether or not I'm going to gamble, and the government giving me that choice for once.
I hear you. I'm a native New Yorker, grew up in Poughkeepsie, spent time going down to Belmont and Yonkers, and I just think it's silly the way it's been stigmatized for so long, and it's nice to see that we've reached this tipping point and this is happening.
All right, Brett, man, I bet you'll be hearing from us soon.
All right, yeah, it'd be a pleasure to come back on. Stay tuned. Hopefully New York gets something done.